In this video, we'll be looking at the Coleman 12-cup stainless steel percolator, the Coletti Bozeman 9-cup stainless steel percolator, the Stanley Kemp 6-cup stainless steel percolator, the GSI Outdoors Glacier 3-cup stainless steel percolator, the Farberware 8-cup classic Yosemite stainless steel percolator, the Primula Today 9-cup aluminum percolator, the GSI Outdoors 8-cup enamelware percolator, the Stansport 8-cup enamel percolator, and the Bialetti 6-cup Mocha Express. We'll be covering brew time, capacity, ease of use, cleaning up, portability, quality, and taste. I spent almost $300 buying these 9 percolators, 4 months testing them out, and another 2 months after that putting this camping percolator series together, complete with full reviews of all 9 camping percolators. So if you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button so this can be seen by more people. And if you do decide to buy a camping percolator I recommend, it would mean a lot if you could use my affiliate links. All affiliate links, YouTube videos, and blog posts will be linked in the description below. Let's get started. These 9 percolators are all stovetop percolators, so I tested them on my stove at home and also on this Coleman portable butane stove. To get a coarse grind, I used this Hario mini mill hand grinder. I used whole bean medium roast coffee from Lavazza. For measuring water, 6 ounces for 1 cup, I used this Pyrex measuring cup. And lastly, for measuring the weight of my coarse ground coffee, I used this Etex City digital kitchen scale from Amazon. For brew time, I looked at the time to first perk and the time of complete brew. The time to first perk is the amount of time it takes for the water to start boiling or for percolation to start. Using medium heat to bring the water to a boil, I compared the timings of all the camping percolators in a 3-cup or 18-ounce capacity, and here are the timings from fastest to slowest. My stainless steel percolators took a slightly longer time to start percolating coffee as compared to my enamel and aluminum percolators, but overall, most of my percolators took between 4 to 6 minutes for the water to boil in a 3-cup or 18-ounce capacity. The Stanley Kemp percolator took quite a bit longer than the rest, I think because the base is narrower, so it takes a longer time for all the water to heat up. As for a 6-cup or 36-ounce capacity, here are all the timings. For the Bialetti Mocha Express, I measured the time it took for coffee to start oozing into the collector. Most of my percolators took between 8 to 10 minutes for the water to boil in a 6-cup or 36-ounce capacity, and stainless steel is generally a bit slower than enamel and aluminum. I'm pretty sure this Coleman timing here is an anomaly though. These are all estimates and can vary by up to 1, maybe even 2 minutes depending on lots of factors like surrounding temperature. For the time it takes to make a complete brew for all the percolators except for the Bialetti, I usually let the coffee percolate for about 7 minutes on medium-low heat. So this adds an additional 7 minutes to the time to first perk, so at a 6-cup capacity, my percolators took between 14 to 17 minutes for the complete brew. The Bialetti Mocha Express was much faster, and the entire brew was complete in about 8 minutes and 15 seconds, which is about half the time. Based on these two factors, I rated each camping percolator's brew times by giving it a number between 1 and 10, with 10 being the highest, and here are those ratings from highest to lowest. The Bialetti Mocha Express was the fastest, and the Stanley Kemp percolator was the slowest because of the narrow base. Stainless steel is generally a bit slower than enamel and aluminum. The capacity marketed by each brand is often not the most accurate, at least from my own testing. Here's each brand's marketed maximum capacity in cups starting from the smallest, and here's my tested maximum capacity of each percolator also in cups. The Bialetti is based on 2-ounce cups of concentrated coffee, and the rest are based on 6-ounce cups of regular coffee. So how did I test for the maximum capacity? For some percolators like the Farberware Yosemite and the GSI Outdoors Glacier percolators, I could fill them with water all the way to the bottom of the holes of the spout without them boiling over, and if so, I took this to be the maximum capacity. For other percolators though, like the Stansport and GSI Outdoors enamel percolators, they boiled over even when the water level was way below the holes of the spout. I also looked at the maximum capacity of each percolator's filter basket when packed to the brim. Personally, I would not recommend packing a filter basket to the brim because when water spreads over the grounds, the filter basket might overflow and grounds will get into the coffee. This happened for a few of my percolators like the Coletti, Stansport, and Coleman, so I had to reduce the maximum capacity for those. I typically use about 10 or 11 grams of grounds for 1 cup of coffee, so using this measurement, I made sure that the filter basket did not overflow at my tested maximum capacity. So back to this table, the maximum capacity you find here is without any boiling over and without the filter basket overflowing. As you can see, only the Stanley Kemp and the Farberware percolators are accurate, some were just slightly overstated and some were just way off base. The maximum capacity here is based on a number of cups of water that I filled each percolator with before brewing the coffee. After brewing, you might get 1, maybe even 2 cups of coffee less because of the steam that escapes during boiling, and if you don't use a coarse grind, your last cup of coffee might not be super drinkable. What about the minimum percolator capacity? If you put too little water in the coffee pot, not enough water will be pushed up the stem and you might end up getting really diluted coffee or even just clear water with grounds. So I also tested the minimum capacity of each percolator. For me, I think that having a bigger range of capacity options is better because in some days, I'm the only one drinking coffee, and on other days, my whole family wants coffee. So based on this, here's how I rated each camping percolator's capacity. The Sansport enamel percolator could take only 5 cups of water. Any more would boil over and I would have grounds in my coffee, and any less would taste diluted. Also, the capacity of the Bialetti Mocha Express can't be altered or the coffee could get over extracted. I scored these 2 the worst and the rest did okay. For ease of use, I looked out for cup markings, a perk knob or globe, a heat-resistant handle, a lid, cover, stability, and whether there were grounds in the coffee. For the cup markings, I looked at how easily it is to see those markings, and if there were no markings, whether I could use the holes of the spout as a rough gauge for water level. The Stanley Kemp percolator has these 2 bumps or protrusions on both the inside and outside of the coffee pot, which are really easy to see. Same goes for the Bialetti Mocha Express, with protruding markings showing you the maximum water level below the safety valve. The GSI Outdoors Glacier stainless steel percolator also has protrusion markings on the inside and outside of the pot, but these are slightly less easy to see. The Kaledi Bozeman percolator has cup markings on the inside and outside as well, but these are inked onto the surface. It's a bit harder to see. The Farberware percolator also has inked markings, but the markings are right behind the handle, which is a bit of a weird placement. The Coleman and Primula percolators did not come with cup markings. The Sansport and GSI Outdoors enamel percolators were the worst because I could not even use the holes of the spout as a gauge, because even though I filled them with water way below the spout, they still boiled over. For the next point, most camping percolators would come with perk knobs or globes so you can tell when the water starts boiling, and you can also see the color of your coffee. All my camping percolators had these perk knobs except for the Sansport enamel percolator, which came with a small rounded handle instead. Another important aspect of stovetop camping percolators is having a handle that's heat resistant and comfortable. My favorite handle has got to be this removable silicone grip on the Stanley Kemp percolator. It's very generously sized and you can use the Stanley over an open flame. The Kaledi Bozeman's rosewood handle comes a close second. It looks beautiful, it's high quality, and the steel plate and these rivets do not get hot for me on a medium flame. I found the handle on the Bialetti very ergonomic, but it's not very big though. The handle on the GSI Outdoors Glacier is not very big as well, and it got hot for me when I was using high heat. I think it's because this is a smaller pot and the handle is closer to the fire. The Farberware and Primula percolators have plastic handles which tend to get hot nearer the pot, but I felt that the Primula got hotter than the Farberware. The Sansport GSI Outdoors enamel and Coleman percolators all have the same type of handles where the middle is like sunken in, which makes it really uncomfortable to hold. Of the 3, I think the Coleman percolator is the most uncomfortable because it's the heaviest. I also looked at the lid and whether I needed pot holders to hold the lid down while pouring. The Coleman and Farberware percolators have tight-fitting lids, while the lid on the Primula was not exactly super tight, but I did not need pot holders for any of them. The Bialetti Mocha Express has a loose lid, but it has this heat-resistant plastic top here that you can press down on to keep the lid closed. The Kaledi Bozeman and GSI Outdoors Glacier percolators also have loose lids, but they come with hinges to keep the lid closed during pouring. These hinges do get a bit hot, but they also cool quickly within a few minutes as I wait for the grounds to settle at the bottom of the pot before pouring. It's not very comfortable to apply pressure upward on this hinge, but it gets the job done and keeps the lid closed. I use pot holders for only the Stanley, Sansport, and GSI Outdoors enamel percolators. There are no features to keep the lid closed while pouring out the last few drops of coffee because that's when the lids tend to open up. As for stability, I looked at the diameter of the base of each percolator. I found most of the camping percolators pretty stable, even the ones with smaller bases. The only one that was a bit unstable was the Stanley Kemp percolator. It has a long cylindrical design, and the diameter of the base, which is 4 inches, is smaller than the diameter of the lid, which is 4.5 inches. This makes it very top heavy, especially when the lid is open. And finally, I looked at whether there were any grounds in the last cup of coffee. For this test, I used a coarse coffee grind. I did not use coffee filter paper, I did not wet the filter basket, and I did not remove the inner percolator before pouring out the coffee. Naturally, there would be some grounds in the last cup, but I found that it was minimal for all my camping percolators as long as there was no boiling over and the filter basket did not overflow. I also measured the size of the holes in each percolator's filter basket and found that most of them measured about 1 mm. The Kaledi Bozeman percolator had holes that are about 2 mm, so slightly larger. This wasn't a big issue for me because I used a quartz grind. Based on all these factors, here's how I rated each camping percolator's ease of use. I clean all my camping percolators the same way by first dumping the grounds and then taking apart all the componentry and running water through them. I found all of them pretty easy to clean actually, but here are a few things to take note of. The BLED Marker Express is the easiest to clean and rinse off with just warm water. There's no leftover oily residue from the coffee bean oils unlike the other percolators. For my other percolators, they would feel a bit oily after rinsing off, so I would percolate water to get rid of the oil, and sometimes I would use soap as well. The Coleman and Primula percolators are easy to clean as everything is detachable, even the lid. The Stansport and GSI Outdoors enamel percolators have this super flimsy hinge that connects the lid to the coffee pot. It's so flimsy that I can bend it with my fingers and remove the lid. I found the Stanley Camp percolator easy to clean as well because I could remove the silicone grip, though it does have a hinged lid. The GSI Outdoors and Kaledi Bozeman stainless steel percolators also have hinged lids. The Kaledi percolator also has a rosewood handle, and I noticed the wood finish dulling slightly over time, so you might want to avoid washing it too much so that it doesn't get water damaged. The lip of the Farberware percolator is rolled inwards, so a bit of water will get trapped in the lip while trying to dry it. The hole of the spout is also a bit small, so it's a bit harder trying to get the last few drops of water to drain out. But honestly, it's not a big issue for me because I can just use a towel to dry it. And finally, here's the list of camping percolators that are dishwasher safe. Unfortunately, I don't have a dishwasher, so I could not test this out, but I got the information either from product info provided by the brand or from reviews from others who had bought the product. Here's how I rated each camping percolator's ease of cleanup. Basically, they were all pretty easy to clean. Here are the dimensions of each camping percolator that I have from smallest to largest, and here's the weight of each percolator from lightest to heaviest. You can pause the video here if you need to. If you need more details on the specs, I have more information in each individual review. For a size comparison, here's what all of them look like. Because I bought each percolator in different capacities, I'm not going to rate them based on portability. For quality, I looked at the material and the quality of the coffee pot, the inner percolator, the perk knob, and the finish. Here's the material and quality of each coffee pot. I felt that my stainless steel coffee pots were higher quality than my aluminum and enamel ones. Of my 5 stainless steel coffee pots, only the Kaledi, GSI Outdoors, and Stanley percolators were specifically 18.8 food grade stainless steel, and only Kaledi provided the gauge of the stainless steel, which is 18 gauge. Since the Kaledi and GSI Outdoor stainless steel percolators are very similar in design, I used these digital calipers to measure the thickness of the steel plates of the handles, and I think that the Kaledi percolator is slightly heavier gauge than the GSI Outdoors. Disclaimer, I could be wrong though. The Stanley Camp percolator is much lighter gauge than both the Kaledi and GSI Outdoors percolators from just looking at the weight. Also, I noticed a small dent in the base of my Stanley percolator a few weeks in, even though I never dropped it or tossed it around. I don't know the type of stainless steel used in the Coleman and Farberware percolators, but looking at the weight, I think the Coleman is heavier gauge. I prefer stainless steel to aluminum because 1, for health reasons, and 2, aluminum seems to wear out faster to me. The boiler of my BLED Marker Express looks pretty worn out, but to be fair, this was after years of use. It definitely feels more sturdy and higher quality than my Primula percolator, which started staining after just a couple of uses. The material that I don't like the most is the enamel finish because of rust. My Stansport percolator has a slight bit of rust, has a very flimsy hinge, and had coffee stains out of the box. My GSI Outdoors enamel percolator was lower quality with the same flimsy hinge, heavier rusting, and even chipping. Here's the material and quality of each inner percolator. The inner percolator is usually made of either stainless steel or aluminum. I prefer stainless steel because it's sturdier. After the past few months of usage, 2 out of 3 of my aluminum inner percolators were bent because aluminum is flimsier, bends, and breaks more easily. Here's the material and thickness of each perk knob. My camping percolators have either glass or plastic perk knobs, and only Kaledi and GSI Outdoors sell replacement knobs. Kaledi sells replacement glass knobs, and GSI Outdoors sells both glass and resin knobs. Personally, I really like these two brands because their knobs are high quality and there are replacements available, although you can try universal knobs for those without replacements. For perk knobs, especially glass ones, I recommend not screwing it in too tightly so that it has space to expand when hot. For the finish of the materials, my Bialetti and Primula aluminum percolators had a fair amount of staining, while my Coletti percolator had slight staining. The rest were fine. Based on everything above, here's how I rated each camping percolator's quality. The Coletti and GSI Outdoor stainless steel percolators are the highest quality, while the GSI Outdoors Enamel, Stansport Enamel, and Primula percolators were lower quality. I conducted a blind taste test with 4 people to see whether the taste of the coffee changes with different percolators and different materials. As far as I can tell, the stainless steel percolators made slightly better tasting coffee than the enamel ones, and the enamel percolator coffee tasted slightly better than the aluminum percolator coffee. Also, the material of the perk knob, whether glass or plastic, did not really change the taste of the coffee. But of course, since this is entirely subjective, I will not be rating the percolators on taste. For overall performance, here's how all the camping percolators performed at each test from brew time to quality. I color-coded the ratings to make it easier to look at. Green is for good and yellow is for not so good. Based on this weightage, here's the overall performance score for each camping percolator. My 5 stainless steel camping percolators did better than my aluminum and enamel ones, with the Coletti Bozeman percolator coming in first and the GSI Outdoors Glacier percolator a close second. Here's how much I paid for each camping percolator, starting from the least expensive. I bought most of these percolators I think a year ago, so the prices might have changed. To check the actual retail price as of now, you can use my affiliate links to Amazon, REI, Moosejaw, or Backcountry below, whichever you prefer. And if you want to compare price against the overall performance score, I'll add another column here on the right and color code it in as well according to score if that helps. But before you buy any camping percolator, let me talk about my recommendations real quick, and please help me like this video if it has been helpful so far. The best overall percolator is the Coletti Bozeman percolator because it scored the highest of all my camping percolators. It's very high quality. The pot and inner percolator are made of heavy gauge 18-8 stainless steel, the handle is made of rosewood, and the perk knob is made of thick glass. You can also buy replacement glass knobs from Coletti. The Coletti Bozeman percolator also comes with water level markings and a useful cover hinge, making it super user-friendly. Also, Coletti provides a complete experience with fantastic packaging, easy to read instructions, and even coffee filter paper. However, the 9-cup capacity here isn't the most accurate. I could brew only a maximum of 5 cups, with 1 cup being 6 ounces. The runner-up percolator is the GSI Outdoors Glacier stainless steel percolator, which scored almost as well as the Coletti. This GSI percolator is just as high quality, complete with 18-8 heavy gauge marine-grade stainless steel and marine-grade welds. I realized that the Coletti and GSI percolators have very similar design and features, like the entire build, the water level markings, the cover hinge, the spreader of the filter basket sitting on the lip of the coffee pot, the shape and position of the handle, and even the holes of the spout. However, there are a few important differences. The Coletti's knob is made of glass, while the GSI knob is made of BPA-free resin. The handle of the Coletti is made of rosewood, while the GSI handle is made of silicone. Also, the holes of the GSI filter basket are about half the size of the Coletti's, and GSI Outdoors offers a lifetime warranty, while Coletti offers a 1-year warranty. So, the GSI Outdoors Glacier percolator might actually be better for you if you prefer resin to glass, silicone to rosewood, smaller holes in your filter basket, and of course a lifetime warranty. Another difference here is that the GSI percolator seems to be slightly lighter gauge than the Coletti percolator, just from measuring the thickness of the steel plates of the handles, though I could be wrong on this. But to be fair, both these percolators are very sturdy and heavy gauge. The most portable percolator has to go to the GSI Outdoors Glacier stainless steel percolator as well. It's the only percolator I know that has a 3-cup capacity and weighs just 14.8 ounces. I think that this is perfect if you're solo camping, you don't drink that much coffee, or you don't have that much space. The handle is not that big though and measures about 2.5 inches. The best value for money percolator goes to the Farberware Classic Yosemite percolator. I paid just $18 for it and got a stainless steel coffee pot, a stainless steel inner percolator, a glass perk knob, water level markings, a tight fitting lid and basket for minimum grams in a coffee, great packaging, and even a lifetime warranty. The handle can get quite hot when using high heat, and the glass knob isn't the thickest though, but hey, for $18 I can't really complain. I think 20 bucks for this is still great value, and 25 bucks is pretty good value for money. Anything higher though, and I don't think I can recommend this as the best value percolator. It is still a pretty good stainless steel percolator though. I think the easiest percolator to use is the Bialetti Mocha Express. There's no need to measure the amount of water, just fill it up to this marked line. There's also no need to measure the amount of coffee, just fill up the filter with medium fine coffee. There's no need to watch the perc knob for percolation to start or the color of your coffee. The complete brew time is about half the time of traditional percolators. There are no grounds in the coffee, and the cleanup is super easy with just warm water, and it leaves no trace of oily residue unlike the other percolators. Also, there's no glass or plastic perc knob or any other moving parts that might break for the Bialetti. I only had to replace the gasket after a few years, which cost like $1 or $2. But the Bialetti is made of aluminum if you're concerned about that. Also, the capacity of the coffee can't be changed. A 6-cup Bialetti Mocha Express means 6 cups of concentrated coffee, no more and no less. Also, I think it does not taste as good as my stainless steel percolators, but that's just my opinion. The Stanley Camp Percolator came in 4th. I really love the Stanley brand. I trust their lifetime warranty. The removable silicone grip is absolutely genius. The stainless steel is 18.8 and has a good finish. However, I think that the stainless steel of the Stanley is lighter gauge than my other stainless steel percolators. The base is narrow, so the brew time is longer, it's top heavy, and the Stanley is also my least stable camping percolator, and it's really quite expensive. If you're loyal to the Stanley brand, I still think that the Stanley Camp Percolator is a good quality product, but it's just not the best percolator on the market. Next, we have the Coleman 12-cup stainless steel percolator. Both the coffee pot and inner percolator are made of heavy gauge steel, and the perc knob is made of thick glass. But it's not exactly a 12-cup, it's more like a 9 or 10-cup capacity. It also doesn't have water level markings, the handle is not comfortable, the handle also gets hot, there's no lifetime warranty, and no replacement glass knobs. And it's pretty expensive too, I paid 47 bucks for mine. Next are the percolators that I don't really like. I'll start with the Primula aluminum percolator. The aluminum is very lightweight, and it's a very affordable percolator, but I think you get what you pay for. There's a lot of staining after some light usage, the stem is very bent, the entire percolator feels very flimsy, the plastic knob is very thin, the handle is not very heat resistant, and overall quality is just lacking. And in last place, we have the two enamel percolators. They're both quite similar in terms of dimensions, weight, the enamel finish. They both have aluminum inner percolators, wider bases, enamel handles, flimsy hinges, and boiling over issues. There are a few differences though. The Stansport percolator doesn't have a perc knob and has a smaller filter basket, but the GSI Outdoors enamel percolator has more quality issues like heavier rusting and more chipping on the pot. I would not recommend either percolator, but if you really want an enamel percolator, I think the Stansport is more durable. If you need more info about any specific camping percolator, you can check out the individual reviews I did for each one. The playlist is up here, and if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below and I'll get back to you. If you enjoyed this video, you can check out my other roundup reviews as well. Please help me smash that like button if this was useful. All relevant links are in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.